Imagine a small town where trust is the glue holding the community together, where teachers are seen as pillars of guidance, shaping young minds with care. Now picture that trust shattered in an instant, not by a stranger, but by a special education teacher who crossed a line no one could have foreseen. In St. James, Missouri, a quiet community of just 4,000 souls, a scandal erupted in 2023 that left parents sleepless and a school in turmoil. Ricky Lynn Laughlin, a 26-year-old educator, admitted to sending sexually explicit photos and videos to a 16-year-old student, a boy she was supposed to protect. The evidence was undeniable. Nude images, a video of her performing a sexual act, even an attempt to lure him to her home. Yet, in a courtroom twist that sparked outrage, Laughlin walked free with just 5 years of probation. No jail time. How could a predator in a teacher's guise evade prison? Why does this sweetheart deal feel like a betrayal to so many? This case isn't just about one woman's crimes. It's a mirror held up to our justice system, exposing cracks that demand answers. You're watching Echoes of the Court, where we dissect the most shocking cases with the precision of a detective and the empathy of a human heart. Don't forget to subscribe to join me as we unravel the layers of this disturbing case. Hi. Những dấu hiệu ban đầu. In the fall of 2023, St. James High School buzzed with the usual rhythm of a small-town school year football games, hallway chatter, and the hum of classrooms. But beneath the surface, something was brewing. Ricky Lynn Laughlin, a new special education teacher, stood out for her warmth and approachability. To her students, she was the young, relatable educator who seemed to understand their struggles. Yet, by September, subtle red flags began to emerge. A 16-year-old male student, described as quiet and reserved, started receiving messages from Laughlin on Snapchat. At first, they were innocuous jokes about class, casual check-ins about his day. But within days, the tone shifted. Laughlin sent a suggestive photo, followed by a fully nude image. The boy later told investigators he was stunned, unsure how to respond. "It happened so fast," he said, recalling how she escalated to sending a video of herself using a sex toy, paired with explicit messages urging him to meet her outside of school. Teachers and students began to notice Laughlin's unusual attention toward the boy. She lingered near his desk, shared private smiles, and once, in an empty classroom, leaned in to kiss him, a fleeting moment he later described as confusing and uncomfortable. By October, whispers reached the school administration. Laughlin, sensing the rumors, sent the boy a panicked Snapchat. "Delete everything. I could go to jail if those pictures come out." But the boy hesitated, keeping some of the messages. That decision, and a single screenshot he hadn't deleted, would become the spark that ignited the investigation. In a town where everyone knew each other, these early signs were like cracks in a dam, threatening to unleash a flood of scandal. There was no lifeless body to uncover in this case, but the discovery of evidence on the 19th of October, 2023, sent shockwaves through St. James, Missouri, as jarring as any crime scene. It began with a tip from a Phelps County detective who alerted Marys County authorities to rumors of an inappropriate relationship at St. James High School. The school district acted swiftly, escorting Ricky Lynn Laughlin off campus and placing her on administrative leave. That same day, deputies arrived at the home of the 16-year-old victim, a boy whose nervous demeanor hinted at the weight he carried. In a private interview, he poured out the truth. Laughlin had sent him nude photos, a graphic video of herself performing a sexual act, and messages pressuring him to meet her for sex at her home while her husband was away. He handed over his phone, revealing saved screenshots and images damning evidence that corroborated his story. Investigators moved quickly to confront Laughlin. When they asked for her phone, she consented, perhaps believing she had covered her tracks. But a forensic search uncovered 3 explicit videos, identical to those described by the boy, stored in her device. The community reeled as the news broke. Parents gathered in hushed conversations at the local diner. Teachers questioned how they missed the signs. and students whispered about the betrayal by a teacher they once trusted. The evidence was undeniable. A special education teacher, entrusted to protect vulnerable students, had exploited her authority in the most predatory way. This moment of discovery wasn't just a breakthrough in the case, it was a gut punch to a town that prided itself on trust and safety. With the evidence in hand, the Marys County Sheriff's Office, under Major Scott John, launched a meticulous investigation to unravel the full scope of Ricky Lynn Laughlin's actions. The case seemed airtight. Explicit images, videos, and the victim's detailed account painted a clear picture of predation. But investigators dug deeper, determined to understand how a trusted teacher became a perpetrator. They interviewed classmates, teachers, and school staff, piecing together a timeline of Laughlin's behavior. Witnesses recalled her overly familiar demeanor, with the 6-year-old boy lingering conversations in hallways, private moments in her classroom, and an unusual intensity in her attention toward him. One teacher noted Laughlin's habit of staying late after school, often alone with the boy under the guise of extra help with his studies. The digital trail was even more revealing. Forensic analysis of Laughlin's Snapchat account showed a pattern of grooming. She began with casual messages, building trust, before escalating to sexual content. On the 14th of October, 2023, she invited the boy to her home, texting, "My husband's gone for the weekend. Come over." The boy, uneasy, declined, citing a family commitment. Investigators uncovered another chilling detail. Laughlin had solicited nude photos from the boy, a tactic experts later described as a way to create leverage and silence him. When rumors surfaced at school, she sent frantic messages urging him to delete their chats, unaware that he had kept screenshots. Laughlin's initial interview with police was a study in deflection. She claimed the boy initiated contact and that she didn't know he was a minor until days before her arrest, a claim prosecutors dismissed, given her access to student records as a teacher. Her story crumbled under scrutiny, especially when confronted with the videos on her phone. The investigation also explored her personal life, revealing strains in her marriage and a carefully curated social media facade of a devoted mother and educator. Was she seeking validation or control? Sheriff Chris Swanson, a task force leader on sexual predators, described her actions as textbook grooming, noting how she exploited her role to target a vulnerable student. By late October, Laughlin faced 7 felony charges, including attempted statutory rape, possession of child pornography, and sexual trafficking of a child, alongside a misdemeanor for furnishing pornographic material. The case was poised for a high-stakes trial until an unexpected twist changed everything. As the investigation closed in, the mask of Ricky Lynn Laughlin, a 6-year-old special education teacher, wife, and mother, began to slip, revealing a predator who had meticulously exploited her position. The evidence laid bare a chilling truth. Laughlin's actions were not a fleeting lapse, but a calculated campaign of manipulation. Her relationship with the 6-year-old victim was no accident. Through Snapchat, she had groomed him, starting with friendly banter to gain his trust, before escalating to explicit photos and videos. Investigators discovered she had sent a video of herself using a sex toy, and even pressured the boy to send nude images back, a tactic to ensure his silence through mutual secrecy. On the 14th of October, 2023, she texted him, "Come to my house. My husband's out of town," revealing a brazen intent to take the relationship physical. The boy's refusal, citing discomfort, likely thwarted her plan. But it didn't stop her from pushing further until rumors forced her to backtrack. What drove Laughlin to such lengths? On the surface, she was a model citizen in St. James, Missouri. Her now-deleted social media painted a picture of a devoted mother to her young daughter and a supportive wife to her husband, Grant, a lineman often away for work. But interviews with colleagues hinted at a woman craving attention, perhaps unfulfilled in her personal life. A former coworker described her as charming but needy, always seeking validation from students and staff. Sheriff Chris Swanson, an expert in predator behavior, suggested a psychological profile. Laughlin may have been driven by a need for control, targeting a vulnerable teenager who, as a special education student, might have been less likely to challenge her authority. Her claim of not knowing the boy's age was debunked by school records, confirming she had full access to his file. This wasn't a spontaneous mistake, it was a deliberate betrayal, planned with the cold precision of someone who knew the power she held. The question lingers, was this an isolated act, or had she targeted others who stayed silent? The revelation of her true motives left the community grappling with a betrayal that cut deeper than they could have imagined. By the 24th of July, 2025, the small town of St. James, Missouri, braced for what many expected to be a reckoning in the Ricky Lynn Laughlin case. The charges against her 7 felonies, including attempted statutory rape, possession of child pornography, and sexual trafficking of a child under 18, promised a trial that would expose the full extent of her betrayal. But in a Grundy County courtroom, far from the Marys County community still reeling from the scandal, the case took a shocking turn. Laughlin's legal team negotiated a plea deal that stunned even seasoned observers. In exchange for pleading guilty to a single, reduced charge, first-degree endangering the welfare of a child, stripped of any explicit sexual context, the prosecution dropped all 7 felony counts. The judge sentenced Laughlin to 5 years of probation, suspending a potential 5-year prison term. No jail time, no sex offender registry, no further accountability for the explicit images or grooming attempts. The courtroom was a cauldron of emotions. Parents of St. James High School students packed the gallery, their faces a mix of disbelief and fury. One mother, speaking anonymously to local media, wept as she described the fear that this could happen to any of our kids. The victim, now 18, did not attend the hearing, sparing him the trauma of facing his abuser. But his absence left a void, no powerful statement, no moment of closure. Laughlin, dressed in a modest gray suit, remained stoic, offering no apology or explanation. Her attorney argued she had shown remorse by cooperating with police. But Sheriff Chris Swanson, who had worked tirelessly to build the case, called the deal a slap in the face to justice. He pointed to the mountain of evidence, screenshots, videos, and the victim's testimony that should have ensured a harsher penalty. Public reaction spilled onto social media, with hashtags like #JusticeForStainJames trending on X, as residents demanded to know why the system seemed to prioritize leniency over protecting a vulnerable teenager. The judge's ruling, while legally sound, left a bitter taste, raising questions about whether the plea spared the victim a trial at the cost of true accountability. The Ricky Lynn Laughlin case has left an indelible mark on St. James, Missouri, a town where trust in institutions was once a given. The plea deal that spared Laughlin jail time continues to haunt parents, educators, and students who now view their school with a wary eye. The case exposed not just one teacher's betrayal, but a broader vulnerability: how easily a predator can hide behind a position of authority. The 6-year-old victim, whose courage in coming forward brought Laughlin's crimes to light, remains a silent figure in this story, his life altered by a teacher who exploited her role. While the plea deal avoided a grueling trial, it also robbed the community of a public reckoning, leaving many to wonder if justice was truly served. The aftermath ripples beyond St. James. The case has fueled debates on X and in local forums about the legal system's handling of sexual predators, especially those in trusted roles. Sheriff Chris Swanson, reflecting on his task force's work, called for stricter oversight in schools, pointing out that Laughlin's background checks showed no red flags, yet her actions revealed a calculated intent. Parents have organized town halls, demanding better training for educators to spot grooming behaviors and stronger policies to protect students. The school district, under scrutiny, has since implemented mandatory reporting protocols and enhanced digital monitoring. But for many, these changes feel like too little, too late. As we return to that first Snapchat message, the spark that ignited this scandal, a haunting question lingers. What does this outcome teach future predators? Laughlin's 5-year probation feels like a whisper of consequence for a crime that screamed betrayal. The case leaves us grappling with a deeper truth. Justice, in its pursuit of fairness, sometimes leaves wounds unhealed. Has the system protected its most vulnerable, or has it allowed a predator to slip through the cracks? And what must change to ensure no child faces such a violation again?